All right, everybody, we're going to do something a little different today. This is actually the video not for just lesson 2, but lesson 3 of module 4. So yes, you heard that right. We are combining those lessons. So we're going to be jumping around the workbooks a little bit today, and your homework will actually be two-sided, but it'll be the two fronts from lesson 2 and lesson 3's assigned homework from the book, and I cut off the review on the back, okay? So that being said, why did I do this? Well, today's first lesson, lesson 2, we're representing thousandths as a place value unit. It's the same thing as lesson 1 that we did with tenths and hundredths. So you're going to see models of mostly thousandths, and you're just going to have to label them, which I think is super easy, and you'll learn in class today. I'll do maybe one of those in the notes today, but we'll start with that. Then lesson 3, we're representing all decimal numbers to the thousandths place in different forms. So that's the big one that I want to focus most of our notes on today, but we'll try to keep this video as short as possible so you're not writing your hand off of your body. All right, so first things first. In our homework for lesson 2, I'm just going to throw this up here. You're going to see a unit form, a picture, a zoomed in picture for thousandths, and something that looks like this. All you have to do is write it in decimal form. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to transfer this part into our notes. So you're going to write 7 thousandths as a fraction. And if you look back in your notes, you have a place value chart in the lesson 1 video, and you can think about this. If I need to write 7 in the thousandths place, that would be written as 0 ones, 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, and a 7 here. So that would be the answer for that one, okay? Now, if I do another one, this is also from the homework, like 45 thousandths, you have to remember the last digit, which I'm going to put an arrow over right now. I want you to do the same thing. Put an arrow over the 5. That's the digit on the place value chart that needs to fall in the thousandths place. So when we write this, you got to remember you're going to need 0 in the ones, but you're also going to need a 0 in the tenths place, because when you write the rest of it, that 5 has to be 1, 2, 3 away from the decimal point, okay? So lesson 2 I thought was pretty easy for that. The other thing is you're going to see some place value discs and things like that, which I think are also super easy, and I'll just show you right now. All you're doing is writing the unit form, like how many ones are there? So that would be 1, 1. How many tenths? Count them up. How many hundredths? Simple as that, okay? But right here, you have to combine these things into the decimal number. So make sure you're counting up the ones, the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths on these first 4 lines. Show me what that decimal number is for that whole number, similar like what we did here, okay? All right, now let's move on to what lesson 3 is all about, which is the different forms of decimal numbers. So I'm going to zoom ahead in my workbook and take a look at lesson 3's homework. And one of the things you're going to have to do is look at a place value chart and just point out where the digits are. But in order to know how to do that, you need to know expanded form. And our book teaches expanded form in many different ways. I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite. So what I'm going to have you do is skip a line in your notebook and write expanded form. So you know that when you go back in your notes, that's what we learned today. Underline it, put a colon, and we're just going to practice with a couple quick decimals. So right underneath that, you're going to write the decimal 1 and 809 thousandths. 1.809, but formally you say 1 and 809 thousandths, because the 9 is in the thousandths. And the first way we're going to write this is what I call the fraction way. So I'm going to show you the fraction way first. So on this side, I'm just going to write the word fraction really quickly. And I like the fraction way. It's pretty easy. All you're going to do is once you hit this decimal point, you're going to write each of the values as a fraction with the plus sign in between, just like you did whole number expanded form. So this would just be 1. Now let's move to the 8 plus, remember, expanded. We're expanding this number into its values. This is worth 8 tenths, so I'm going to write it as a fraction. There's nothing in the hundredths place, so there's going to be no hundredths. So I'm just going to skip the 0 and go right to the 9 thousandths. Now, I don't know about you, but I thought that way was the easiest, okay? Then there's a way to do it in decimal form. So underneath that, we're going to write decimal. And for this one, you start the same way. This is not a decimal. That's one whole, like $1. So I'm going to put the 1 out front. But instead of doing 8/10 like this, I'm going to rate it as 0.8. I'm going to put another plus sign. There's no hundredths, so I'm going to go to the 9. I'm going to write 9 thousandths as a decimal. So remember, to do that, I need a 0 in the tenths, a 0 in the hundredths, and the 9 needs to be in the thousandths place to represent that value correctly. So now you have 2 ways you can write a number in expanded form. Okay, we're going to do one more, and then we'll call it quits on this video, and then everything else we'll learn in our workbooks today. So underneath this, I'm going to skip a line. I'm going to leave this, actually. I'm just going to scooch my paper down. I'm going to write a new number, kind of centered in my page. It's going to be 48 and 36 thousandths, okay? So on your homework, it's going to ask you to represent this number in expanded form in 2 ways, okay? So you can do it like this by writing fraction decimal, or you could just write like, okay, I'm going to do it this way first and this way second, okay? So for the first way, I'm going to go fraction form. So I'm going to take this 48, I'm going to split it up. Remember, each digit needs its own plus sign in between the next one. So the 4, we're just going to put 40 because it's in the tens place. You might remember that just from doing like, hey, expanded form of 48 is 40 plus 8. So let's get that part down now. 40 plus 8, that's a plus sign. The marker's kind of dying. Another plus sign. And now I'm going to write what this is. This is 3 hundredths. And then the last one I'm going to write as 6 thousandths. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Pretty easy. All right, and for the second way, I'm going to start off the same way. Whole numbers will always be one way to do it. 40 plus 8. And now I'm just going to change these to their decimal form. So this would be 3 hundredths. So remember, 3 hundredths is 0.03. You need a 0 in the tenths place. If you write 0.3, that'd be 3 tenths. But there's nothing in the tenths place, so we're skipping that place value. It has no value other than a placeholder. And the same thing with the 6. I'm going to put 6 thousandths. So again, expanded form is when you take the value of each digit, skipping over the zeros, and you're writing them in expanded form with plus signs in between. Now, the only other thing the book does, I'm just going to show you, but I'm not going to have you write. So you can put your pencil down, but if your eyes aren't locked on the screen, there might be a consequence because this is big, right? We want you to make sure you know this. There are other ways the textbook writes expanded form using multiplication as well. And basically what they do, and I'll use this as an example, instead of writing it like this, they might add some extra stuff. So when you see multiple choice, that's when they do it the most. I don't want you to get confused if they don't write it exactly like this. This is me trying to make it easier for you, but they might write, okay, they might take the 40, the 4, and write it like this, 4 times 10. And they might put parentheses around it, they might not. Showing you that there's a 4 in the tenths place. So if you do 4 times 10, that's 40. And then they'll do the plus sign, and then they'll take the 8 and do 8 times 1 because it's in the ones place. And then they'll take the 3 because that's the next one over. Are you watching? And they'll do 3 times, and then fraction-wise, they put 1/100th because it's in the hundredths place. And then they'll take the 6 and do it like this, 6 times the thousandths. So again, you don't have to write this, but if you wanted to, go ahead. But I'm going to be moving on quickly. So this is the other way to do fraction form, because we're taking the fraction and multiplying it by the number in that place value, showing you that there's a 3 in the hundredths place, 6 in the thousands. So you might see something like this on a multiple choice question that says, which one of these is the correct way to write this? And obviously these are correct, but this is also correct. But the same thing can be done with this place value. Watch what I do. Not place value, this form. For decimal form, they might do 4 times 10. So I'm going to just draw an arrow down here. Again, feel free to write this if you're a fast writer, but you don't have to. Plus 8 times 1 again. So those parts stay the same, just like they stayed the same here for the whole numbers. So we got a 4 in the tens place, 8 in the ones. Now we're just going to do this same thing, but do the decimal form. So we have a 3 in the hundredths place, so I'd put 0.01. Remember, this 0 is optional. It might just say this on a multiple choice, but remember, just make sure that 1 is in the same place value as the 3 and the number above. And then you probably guessed it, we're going to do 6 times 1,000th, which can be written as 0.001, okay? So this is just another way to show these two, but you have a fraction form and a decimal form. That's the big thing I want you to get out of today. All right, so we're going to be jumping around the book a little bit today to make sure you know how to do all the questions on your homework. I do think even though the homework is two-sided with 2 fronts, you're going to find it relatively easy. If it wasn't easy, I would not be combining these 2 lessons, okay? So good luck. I think you're going to do fine, but ask questions if you have it before homework time. Good luck.